Well, good morning. Happy Friday. It is Springfield's Morning News. I'm Greg Bishop on 92.7 WMAY, Springfield's News and Talk. Let's get your calls at 217-629-7970 about Pelosi out and an investigation of President Joe Biden in. This all coming from the U.S. House after it was announced that Republicans are going to control that chamber. So let's go ahead and get to this. And again, you can always chime in live and local at 217-629-7970, or you can email bishoponair@gmail.com or search everywhere on social media, Bishop on Air, and we can connect that way. But Nancy Pelosi yesterday taking to the House floor after a series of other points of personal privilege that lawmakers were taking, including Congressman Rodney Davis. He stood up for a few moments and recognized a constituent of his that recently passed away named Karen, and just highlighting the work that she's done in the community. But then, several other members of Congress stood up. But then Nancy Pelosi gets up there and provides some comments ranging from all the work that she's done, thanking her staff, thanking Democrats in the U.S. House, and stacking up those applause for her staff and for other Democrats and for their agenda in the U.S. House. And it was interesting because you could clearly see, half of the House standing and applauding, and then the other half of the House really not moving at all, and those being the Republicans. But let's go ahead and hear what Nancy Pelosi had to say and get your reaction to it at 217-629-7970. It's here on Springfield's Morning News. I'm Greg Bishop on 92.7 WMAY. Here's Nancy Pelosi.
Now we must move boldly into the future, grounded by the principles that have propelled us this far and open to fresh possibilities for the future. Scripture teaches us that for everything there is a season, a time for every purpose under heaven. My friends, no matter what title you all, my colleagues, have bestowed upon me, speaker, leader, whip, there is no greater official honor for me than to stand on this floor and to speak for the people of San Francisco. This I will continue to do as a member of the House, speaking for the people of San Francisco, serving the great state of California, and defending our Constitution. And with great confidence in our caucus, I will not seek re-election to Democratic leadership in the next Congress. For me, the hour's come for a new generation to lead the Democratic caucus that I so deeply respect. And I'm grateful that so many are ready and willing to shoulder this awesome responsibility.
So again, Nancy Pelosi, 82 years old, saying that she's not going to seek leadership, but she's going to remain in Congress, she said. She also drew a lot of applause from members of Congress, recounting the first time she visited the Capitol and seeing all the juggernauts in the U.S. Capitol and watching all of that over the past few decades, because she's been in there since, the 80s or something. So, your reaction to Nancy Pelosi ultimately announcing that she's going to remain in Congress, but won't be actually seeking leadership. In all of this, after the election last week, now Republicans have gained enough seats to get the majority, a very slim majority, but still enough to be able to take control of the gavel. And I think House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy said that when you get the gavel, it's not a medium-sized gavel. It's not a small gavel. It's not a large gavel. It's the same sized gavel that draws a lot of power to be able to do things. And that includes investigations, and that includes subpoenas. Now, the House, separate from the Senate, so the Senate's still going to be controlled by Democrats. But even then, having that divided Congress with the House, they're going to be able to control a lot of policy. They're going to be able to block a lot of policy coming out of the Senate. They're going to be able to control the purse strings. They're going to be able to control investigations, and even they could set up totally new committees. One of the things that Republicans have shown that they're ready to do is to investigate not just Hunter Biden, but Joe Biden, the president of the United States, over questionable business dealings and what Joe Biden knew of Hunter Biden's foreign affairs. with Chinese companies, with Ukrainian companies, and so on. And this is something that is going to move forward in the new Congress with Republicans taking over the House. I want to hear from you. Are you ready for that? Again, 217-629-7970. That's the phone number. We will hear some of the comments from Republicans yesterday when they took to a podium in Washington, D.C. to announce their investigation and open it up for your calls. Again, 217-629-7970. It's here with Springfield's Morning News. I'm Greg Bishop on 92.7 WMAY. You can always follow along with me on social media. Just search everywhere. Bishop on Air, all one word, Bishop on Air. We can connect that way, or you can email me, bishoponair@gmail.com. All right, so stay tuned. Much more coming up. All right, welcome back. It is Springfield's Morning News. Let's get to your phone calls at 217-629-7970. Nancy Pelosi is out, and Biden investigation is in. You had House Republicans who are expected to take over the House in the new Congress, and that gives them a lot of power to do a variety of things, including investigations. And yesterday we had an announcement from a group of Republicans, the House Oversight Chair, James Comer, announcing that they are going to be looking into Hunter Biden, but it's not just about Hunter Biden. It's a story that is about Joe Biden, the President of the United States.
As such, this investigation will be a top priority. We are releasing a report today that details what we have uncovered. We are also sending letters to the Biden administration officials and Biden family associates renewing our request for voluntary production of documents relevant to this investigation. This is an investigation of Joe Biden, the President of the United States, and why he lied to the American people about his knowledge and participation in his family's international business schemes. National security interests require the committee conduct investigation, and we will pursue all avenues that have long been ignored. Committee Republicans have uncovered evidence of federal crimes committed by and to the benefit of members of the president's family. These include conspiracy or defrauding the United States, wire fraud, conspiracy to commit wire fraud, violation of the Foreign Agents Registration Act, violations of the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act, violations of the Trafficking Victims Protection Act, tax evasion, money laundering, and conspiracy to commit money laundering. The Biden family's business dealings implicate a wide range of criminality, from human trafficking to potential violations of the Constitution. In the 118th Congress, this committee will evaluate the status of Joe Biden's relationship with his family's foreign partners and whether he is a president who is compromised or swayed by foreign dollars and influence. I want to be clear. This is an investigation of Joe Biden, and that's where the committee will focus in this next Congress.
So that's, again, James Comer. He is the new House Oversight Committee chair for the Republicans when they take over the U.S. House next year. Your thoughts? Is this going to be something that's going to make every, front page news outlet whenever they ultimately get into the nitty-gritty of these investigations? Is this going to be something that ultimately is, discussed on even these airwaves at a regular frequency, as we saw a whole bunch of unfounded claims of against the former president, Donald Trump, with the Russia collusion narrative that was pushed by media? Or is this just going to be merely ignored by a vast subset of the population? Your thoughts, 217-629-7970. That's the phone number. Jim Jordan taking to the podium yesterday as well. And he had some choice words to say for the media, but let's go ahead and get to the phones at 217-629-7970. Good morning. You're on WMAY.
Good morning. To answer your question, I don't think this will be covered in any depth like the Russian collusion lies were. I don't know. I think it's just going to get brushed by the wayside unless it comes to like a formal impeachment or something like that. That's the only way I can see it getting any national. I just think it's just going to be covered up and pushed aside. But on earlier, when you first started talking earlier in the hour, I was really. This is fine. I'm okay with this investigation, but oh my gosh, that guy. When I watched this conference yesterday, he was giddy. He was just, I thought he was wet himself. He's so excited.
Well, and I think the reason is because you've got this story having been circulating for years now. And the Hunter Biden laptop that came out with news reports of it before the 2020 election was suppressed. It was suppressed by social media. Major news outlets brushed it off and cited a bunch of retired intelligence officials and said that it was Russian disinformation or had the earmarks of Russian disinformation. So it was downplayed. But then right after the election, you had news outlets being like, okay, well, we verified the information that's on this laptop. And it's not just scandalous stuff about crack cocaine use and prostitutes. It's also business dealings between Hunter Biden and Joe Biden and other Biden family members in deals with China and Ukraine and beyond. So, yeah, I think the fact that now we're here, 3 years after the fact or so of this story just being out there in the ether, wouldn't you be a little giddy if you got the opportunity to say we're launching an official investigation with subpoena power?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying it shouldn't happen. I agree with the direction they're going, but I found him a little amusing yesterday. And I did enjoy Jim Jordan walking up there every once in a while and saying, what part of this is Russian disinformation?
Right.
There's nothing we presented to you that is disinformation.
Yeah, and I want to get to that right now so people can hear it from Jim Jordan. I appreciate your call and your awareness about this issue. 217-629-7970 is the phone number. So let's go ahead and hear from Jim Jordan, who did take to the podium briefly and actually several times, but he addressed the media directly with some of his choice words about how they've covered things in the past. So here's Jim Jordan.
Jamie, so I would just start with this question. What part of Mr. Comer's presentation was Russian disinformation? I mean, never forget what happened on October 19th, 2020, 15 days before the most important election we have in our country. Who's going to be the next president of the United States? 15 days before that, Mr. Brennan, Mr. Clapper, and 49 other people signed a letter that said the following. It is for these reasons that we write to say that the arrival on the U.S. political scene of emails purportedly belonging to Vice President Biden's son, Hunter, has all the classic earmarks of a Russian information operation. They further went on to say, we want to emphasize that we do not know if the emails provided to the New York Post are genuine or not, just that our experience makes us deeply suspicious that the Russian government played a significant role in this case. And of course, that letter became the pretext for suppressing this story, again, just days before the most important election we have in our country. So I would ask this, was J.P. Morgan's suspicious activity report to the Treasury Department, was that just a classic earmark of a Russian information operation? How about when Hunter Biden sent the email that Mr. Comer pointed to, sent the email asking for keys to his new office space, one for himself, one for President Biden, one for his uncle Jim Biden, and one for the emissary for the chairman of the Chinese energy company CFCC. Was that just Russian disinformation operation in place?
So obviously this is going to be a pretty contentious hearing, investigation. You could see that Democrats, they used their subpoena power to go after all kinds of people in the Trump circle. Well, you can imagine Republicans are going to return that favor in the U.S. House with their investigations. We'll talk a little bit later on about some hearings that happened in the U.S. Senate and Republican U.S. Senator Josh Hawley taking a couple of Biden administration officials to task, including the Department of Homeland Security Chief Mayorkas and FBI Director Christopher Wray, and he had some pretty choice words there as well. So stay tuned. That's coming up later on this morning. But up next, we've got to talk about the outcome of the 2022 election. Kent Redfield, he's going to be hosting a discussion with the Citizens Club this morning. So if you're out and about early this morning, head on down to the Hoagland. We got details coming.